You want to use an open source model on your local machine to work with OpenCode, where you can actually reliably code and actually perform tasks. And are you also looking for a few tips that you can maybe improve performance while actually using on your local machine, depending on what tasks you want to do? If so, then this video is for you. Let's just jump straight into it. All right, to get this working, you're going to have to install two applications. One is Ollama, and the other one is OpenCode. So on screen, I am showing Ollama at the moment. So to download Ollama is quite simple. You can either follow this command, or you can just go up here and download it itself. All right, I've downloaded the macOS already. So you'll see in my nav bar at the top, it will come over here. You probably won't see it on the recording, but there's an item I can just use over there. So download that and then install it. And the second application you're going to need is OpenCode. So you can just go to opencode.json and then just scroll down here to the install section. And you've got multiple different ways you can install it. You can use npm, bun, yarn. You can even use Homebrew. I use Homebrew because I'm on a Mac. So I literally just copied that, went to my terminal, and I literally just installed it. So to make sure that both things are installed, so you can just go Ollama and just run that once it's installed on your computer. Once Ollama is installed, you'll see all these different options. We'll go through what those are in a bit. And if you've got OpenCode, you can now run OpenCode in your terminal. And again, OpenCode should run for you. All right. So in this example, we're going to be looking at running a local model from Ollama. And what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be using the Qwen 3.6 model. So if you just go Qwen 3.6 in Ollama, this is the model we're going to be running. So you literally have to run this in the terminal. What will happen is Ollama will just download this for you and keep it up to date. One thing to note, it is quite a big model. It's 24 gigs. So if you're on a Mac, which I am, I've got 64 gigs of unified memory, so this runs without a problem. If you're on a 32 gig, you can still run this quite a bit. If not, you might just need to scale down and look at a smaller model for the 3.6. And I think the smallest you can go is the 27 billion parameter model here, and use that. If you are looking for an even smaller model, there are options. I've tested them, but you don't have reliable performance, sadly. So at the moment, from my testing, 3.6 just seems to be working really well. I did try 3.5, 9 billion parameter, so I can go to that, but it just was not working quite well. So I'd recommend just trying to keep to Qwen 3.6 to get better results. Anyway, so just jumping to the terminal. So I'm just going to just really grab that, and I'm going to grab that. I'm going to go to the terminal, and I'm going to paste Ollama, and let's just make this a bit bigger. And I'm literally just going to paste Ollama run Qwen 3.6. And we will see from your screen, it will actually start downloading. I've already downloaded this now. So this is actually just popping into memory so I can talk to it. And we can see it is running, and it's quite quick. It's quite performant. And you can see I'm Qwen. Great. So all good. All right. So the point of this video is we actually want to run Ollama in OpenCode. And there's a few ways we can do this. One is you can actually just go Ollama launch. And you can actually just then type OpenCode here. And it's quite useful. It actually comes here and it shows you what models you can use. There's just a Qwen 3.6. And it will then just launch OpenCode with Qwen 3.6 already there, which is great because now I can actually start using this, for example. One thing to note, this model can take a while to load up for your OpenCode session. All right, so we can see it is working. And we can see we reused up to 7,000 tokens, which is quite a lot for an open source model. All right. One thing to note is if you are using these open source models, sometimes the context window is set to a very small amount. But Ollama recently did an update where you can actually change that. You just have to go to your Ollama application, right click, and then go on settings, and you should get a menu like this. And if you scroll down, you'll see there's this context window. And one thing to note about this context window is depending on which context window you use determines how quickly the model loads up. So if you do 128 or 256, it can take a very long time for that model to load up. And if your machine can't handle a model with a larger context window, it will break. So my recommendation is, figure out what tasks you want to do and then specify the model for that context window. I think most people will be quite happy with a 128 or 64. I'm just using 32K because I'm just doing this for functions. I think for heavier loads of work, I might just want to make it 128K, especially with OpenCode, especially using just the general build. You can see I'm already using 7,000 tokens, which is quite a lot in terms of percentage of what I've used of the current threshold here. All right, just to test this, we're going to just create a new project with the Next.js site, and we're just going to tell it to make a landing page just so you can see the performance. Again, I am just using the 32K context window, so it will be limited in terms of that kind of performance, but for now, I just want to keep it low so it's a lot faster. You can always increase the performance and then, the context window, and it'll just take a bit of time to load up, but at least you can use it that way. This is the site that the local model actually built. You can actually see it's actually quite good. It has some decent font styles and things like that. It has some animations, some decent images that I could just use very briefly. And so far, actually quite decent. Not too bad, but there are still some errors. I did have to prompt it quite a bit to get it out. It just seemed to do very short loop cycles, which was quite annoying. So just keep that a note. Another thing that I had to do is I had to actually increase the context window. So I actually increased it to 64 just because 32 was a bit too small, but that's just using the default build agent. So just keep that in mind. You can always increase it to 120 or 256. That is the standard context size of the model. And if you ever want to know, you could just go back to Ollama and just read more about the model itself. So if we just go here, we go Qwen 3.6, and we just go to it. We can actually come here. I believe it shows you here. So we can see the context size here is 256K. So that's how we know how much context we can actually give it. You can restrict it using the settings. If you want to actually save a model with a different context size, there's ways to do that. And just quickly what that looks like is, and if you actually want to reset a model to a different size, you just go Ollama and you run the model name. So you can go for example, Qwen 3.6 here. Yeah, so you can just run the model and then you can just go dash, and then you can actually set parameter. For example, I can actually set this to 65K. And what's nice is this model is now set to 65K, and then I actually save this model as whatever I want. I can say, Darren's model, for example, and it's actually created that. So if I exit this now and I go Ollama list, you'll see this new model appears here for Darren's model latest. And this will always have this context set to 65K, which is really great. So if I want to upload this and set a config file for OpenCode, I can do that. One thing to note, if you don't do the Ollama launch OpenCode with the model, it won't actually be in OpenCode settings. So if I do this and redo the 3.6, you'll see 3.6 is there. But if I exit this and I just run OpenCode here, it won't be here. So if I go models and I go Ollama, we can see that 3.6 is not here. And the reason why that is you have to put that in the config file. All right, if you do want to just add this new model to your config file for OpenCode, you can just go VI, and then wherever your config folder, your opencode.json folder is located on your global or project-wise, you can go and do that. So the main thing is you need your provider here. So you'll see here, I've got this provider, Ollama, and then you have to have the NPM AI SDK, OpenAI compatible. We do have notes on this on the OpenCode docs, but essentially you will just put your model name, what your model name comes through on Ollama, and then you just enable certain configs allowed for it. And that's what you can do here. And then every time you go into OpenCode, you don't need to do that Ollama launch OpenCode and then select the model. It'll just be automatically in OpenCode for you, as long as you've got the Ollama provider here. Anyway, guys, this was just a quick video just to describe how you can actually use local models with OpenCode. One thing I do want to say, this model is a lot better than other ones I've tried in the past before. This one seemed a lot more consistent and I could actually get decent work done. One thing I did note, it did struggle with some debugging tasks, so you do have to guide it a bit more. Don't just expect to say fix error and it's going to fix the error. You're going to have to give it a lot more context and probably have better context files for these local models. Also, you're going to probably have to have some custom agents, really trim it down and have system prompts that actually make it a lot better. Anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video and I hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.